Hello and welcome back to the Graceful Tangle YouTube channel. I'm Amy Kate, a young but passionate knitter and crocheter. If you're looking for me on social media, you can find me on Instagram, Etsy, Ravelry, and Pinterest as The Graceful Tangle. On Ravelry and Etsy, you can find and purchase my knit and crochet patterns. And also on Ravelry, you can find the Graceful Tangle podcast group and join in on all of the fun chatter we have going on over there. I also have a blog that will be linked in the description box below, and I have a blog post all about what I am about to talk about today, so if you can check that out if you would like. So today I want to talk all about my newest pattern release, which is the Vanilla Twist Cowl. So I'm going to talk just about a few things about this pattern and kind of the construction and how it can be made, a little bit about the pattern, and then we will talk about the coupon code that y'all can use. So first off, let's chat about the yarn that I used. So I'm actually going to take it off so that I can show it to you a little bit better and a little bit more close up. So the yarn that I used is Knit Picks Felici and Knit Picks Stroll held together. So for this sample, I used one strand of Knit Picks Stroll in the color Sprinkle Heather, which is the purple that you see more throughout the cowl, and then the stripy color is Knit Picks Felici in the color Cupcake Karaoke. So when I designed this cowl, my goal was to create a pattern that was not socks, but that used Knit Picks Felici. So if you're not familiar, Felici is a very well-known yarn that is designed specifically to knit self-striping socks. It is amazing, it is gorgeous, so soft, so durable, washable. I have always loved Felici, but this cowl was my first time using it because while this has since changed, I was never a sock knitter. And so I kind of had in my mind that I was never going to use Felici just because it seemed so perfect for socks and I didn't know what else I would use it for. So my goal with this pattern was to create a pattern for people who wanted to use Felici yarn and wanted to experience that yarn without quote, having or needing or thinking that they should, I guess, make socks. Because there's so many things that you can make with this yarn. It does not have to be socks. And while socks are absolutely amazing and I cannot wait to knit a pair of socks using Felici, it's not the only thing out there. So that was my kind of thought process behind it. I also wanted to create something very wearable and very squishy that was extremely beginner friendly. Socks are simple to make. There were a few things that make them a little bit complicated and what scared me for a really long time to make them. But for the most part, if you're knitting a vanilla pair of socks, it is just stockinette. You have the ribbing, you have the heel, and you have the toe, but in between all of those sections is only stockinette. So it's really mindless. And I didn't want to take that away from this experience. I wanted it to be very mindless too. So I named it the Vanilla Twist Cowl because this is kind of a vanilla cowl. So vanilla socks would be plain stockinette socks. This cowl is plain stockinette. So that was kind of my thought process behind the design and why I wanted to create it to begin with. Now let's talk about the construction of it a little bit more. So this cowl is knit in the round in a tube. So you cast on your stitches onto your 16-inch circular needle. You knit a big long tube that is about 27 inches long, and then at the end you will join the ends together. Now there's a couple different ways that you can cast on and join your cowl to seam it or twist it or not twist it. So I give two options in the pattern. The first option is a crochet provisional cast on, then join it using the Kitchener stitch. The second option is a long tail cast on, then bind off normally and join the ends together using the whip stitch. So the first method, the crochet provisional cast on, will produce a completely seamless seam. So in reality, I could probably find my seam if I tried hard enough. Maybe, okay, yes. So right here, this row I can tell is just a little bit different. The tension is slightly different, but depending on your Kitchener stitch skills, yours might be better and more seamless. So I don't even know if it's going to pick up on camera, but this last row of the blue before it goes into this purple is the Kitchener stitch. So you can see, I think right here, a couple of the stitches are a little bit tighter than the others, a little bit more, I guess, drawing to the eye. This is, this right here is actually where I started my Kitchener stitch. So you can see that tiny little hole, which could have been covered up more if I had pulled a little bit harder on my end. So overall, that will create a perfectly seamless join. Now, if you were to do the cast on and bind off method, you would use the whip stitch to seam, and that would also still produce a very hidden seam, especially if you were to wear it with it being on the back of your neck. People would not be able to notice. That way is also more beginner friendly, so it's easier to work a regular cast on and then a bind off versus a provisional cast on and then a Kitchener stitch. So it's totally your preference. There are lots of tutorials for Kitchener stitch and provisional cast ons here on YouTube that are so helpful. So if you are new to those techniques, I would recommend checking some of those out. Provisional cast ons and Kitchener stitch is definitely a technique that I would encourage you to try, but I do not want to add any pressure to this pattern by requiring that. So that is definitely why I put that easy recommendation in there for people who are a little bit more beginner. You can just cast on normally, knit your tube, and then bind off. I have also included instructions in the pattern for how to create this twist. This is a totally optional element. You can do it, you cannot do it, you can, it's completely your decision. I wanted to create the twist because I wanted a little bit of an extra element to the pattern, and I wanted to it be slightly more elaborate when wearing it. So if I were to put it on with the twist in the front, you can just see that it naturally lays so well. It naturally bunches up just a little bit in the front and doesn't stand up straight. It's so comfortable. I can also turn the twist to the back of my neck and wear it like this. So if I wanted it to be a little bit more kind of like beefy and warm and cozy in my front, but then also still sit well on my neck, I can wear it like this. Now, if you do not want to create the twist, you absolutely do not have to. You do it at the end, right before you seam. So you just have to decide before you seam if you're going to create the twist or just leave it like a tube. If you left it like a tube, it would just look exactly like this. It would bunch up at your neck and keep your neck nice and warm, and then it would kind of lay like this in the front instead of just a little bit more flat where the twist is. I lost my twist. It's somewhere. It does lay a little bit nicer in my opinion in the front if you do the twist. But again, totally your decision. I also, in the pattern, add instructions for making this any size you want. So again, you cast on in the round and knit a tube. If you wanted your cowl to be wider, so if you wanted this section to be more wide or narrower, so skinnier, you could cast on more stitches for it being wider and less stitches to make it narrower. So I gave a number in the pattern of how many stitches to cast on, but you can cast on any amount of stitches you want. It doesn't even have to be an even number. It's totally your decision. And then for the length, if you want your cowl to be longer, simply knit more rows. If you want it to be shorter, simply knit less rows. So the length is what determines the circumference. Unless you are making it for somebody who is smaller, such as a little kid, I wouldn't recommend going much smaller than the pattern, only because you can see how it fits me. It fits me really well. So if you wanted it to be more of like something to go right onto your coat, you can make it shorter. But all in all, I would suggest making it longer, if anything, if you're making it for an adult. I would also say that my neck is pretty small, so if you are naturally a little bit of a larger size, I would recommend keeping it like this or making it longer. But again, totally your preference. If you want it to fit more snug, make it shorter. If you want it to be more long and drapey, or even be able to wrap it around twice, simply knit more rows. So that's a little bit about the construction of the cowl, the way that it's designed, and the thought process that I kind of created this design for. Now, if you would like to download this pattern for yourself, you can do so for free using the code VANILLA at checkout on Ravelry. I'm going to include links to the pattern in the description box below, as well as the blog post that I have written all about this this pattern, and I hope that you go check it out. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video, and I hope that you are excited about this pattern. It's such a simple, mindless cowl, and I really hope that you enjoy it. And also, I meant to mention this earlier, but you can use any yarn that you want for this project. You can use 2 strands of fingering held together like I did. You can use 1 strand of worsted. You can use bulky if you wanted it to be nice and squishy. Do whatever you want. My intentions of creating this pattern was to make it as simple as possible so that you could kind of modify it to make it your own. So I hope that you enjoyed hearing all about it. Let me know in the comments below if you plan on making this cowl, if you like the idea, if you want to see more patterns that are kind of this simple and this easy to modify. It's definitely something that I want to create more of. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all again next time. Bye.